Hey guys, it's me Giuseppe, and today I'm going to be unboxing the new for 2025 Home Depot 15-foot Worricrow. Let's get into it. Alright, so starting off right here, we got to open up his box, and then I'm going to take all the pieces out and set them over there in front of Skelly, and then we'll start building him. So first, we have his giant base that's what he's gonna be standing on. And then we have one of his arms. And then this looks like one of the other pieces to his arm. So I'm gonna put that right here. And then we have this looks like one of the leg pieces. And then we have another one of his arms. This one's in plastic wrapping. And then here we have, this looks like his pelvis, which is gonna be the first thing when you lean him down in the box. And then we have his rib cage, just super big, and it has the LEDs inside of it, like the LED kit for the Skelly, which is super cool that this guy includes it with him. And then right here, we have the costume or the clothing, which is super cool. It's in this plastic wrapping. And then we have another one of his leg poles. And then another one of his arms. And then we have, it looks like another piece from his leg. This one has the access hole. So this is gonna be near where the pelvis is when we're instructing him. And then I can already tell that this is his head inside this box because that's how they did it with Skelly that I unboxed last year. And then we have the base. This is like what his feet would be, but instead of having two legs, he just has like one giant stick that goes all the way up to his pelvis. And then moving on to our last few things in the box, we have this. This is where you plug them in. So this is going to be something by the pelvis. And then we have this other leg piece. And then we have this, or not this, these few last cardboard boxes. These are going to be like his support poles inside of his legs. And so now that I have him unboxed, let's get to building him. All right, so starting off right here, we have like his base or like his feet kind of. And we have to put this on his metal base. So this is the first step. And that goes on just like that, super easy. Then the next step is to put the metal poles on. So, all right, so now that I got his base or like his feet piece on, next I have to put on C and C. So let me do that real quick. Both of these look like they just easily slide on. Then the next step is to put his, like this double support pole that connects to both C and C. So let me do that. And that should go in right there like that. And then the next part is to screw this piece in. So let me do that. All right, so the next step is to get his leg part E, and then you get it and you just put it on right here where you just put these two double support poles, and then find where it fits, and then it just goes on easily like that. Then the next step is to put on part F, which is this piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on real quick. And now that that's on, let's move on to the next step. Alright, so now that you've assembled his giant leg piece right here with the double support bar inside of it, the next step is to put on part G right here. And you snap lock this in, and there is a place for these two bars to rest on. And then you just snap lock it in, and then you also do have to screw it in with the screws that are included with this guy. You're gonna perfectly line it up so that he can go down. And then, just like that, you've got it on. So then after you do that, the next step is to put on part H, which this part actually already has his IR sensor. That's how tall this guy is. On Skelly, I feel like his IR sensor might have been a little bit higher up. I could have been wrong. But, so this is the next step, and so I'm going to climb up on the ladder and put this on real quick. Should just slide down easily. And just like that, we've got part H on. So now that we got that, let's move on to the next step. Alright, so the next step after you put on part H with the IR sensor is to put on part I through part H. So I'm going to do that real quick. So first I guess I'll get it right here, and then get it to stay, and then I'll get off the ladder and then connect it through the access hole, which I'm now realizing why there's so many access holes on this guy. They're actually really helpful. So, you get that connected. Alright, and now that I got that connected, let's move on to the next step, which is leaning him down on the box, because he's already super tall. But anyways, let's get to that. Alright, so now that I've got him leaned on the box, the next step is actually to put on part J, and this part has lots of wires on it. So you're going to have to do some wire connecting, and this should go in right here, and easily snap lock in. And then got the wires right here, and then connect white to white. And then after you connect the white wire, you're going to want to twist this on, because this is what makes the wires waterproof. It keeps the water from coming in. Then once you've connected the white wires, you're also going to want to connect the black wires. And then after you connect the black wires, you're going to want to do the same thing and twist this cap on, because this is what's going to protect these wires from getting rained on and then stopping working. Then the whole entire animatronic stops working. So that's why you want to twist these on and make sure you got them on good. Alright, so now that I got that piece on, let's move on to the next step. Alright, so after you get part J on, the next part is to put part K on. It's another outer shell piece of his leg. And so you just get it right here, and then does it go on? Which way does it go on? Okay, so the access hole is on top. So I'm going to put these wires in there, and I'm going to just slide this on. Also stuff those wires into there. And then should go in just like that. And then after that, you've got got it on. So yeah, so then after that, the next step is to put on part L. So let me get part L. I believe it's one of these. Actually, no, part L is in this box. So after that, you get part L, then you put part L in here in this other piece, which is now his legs actually begin to split apart, which is cool. Because now it's more like he actually does have two legs, which is super cool. So real quick, let me do this. All right, so now that I've got part L in, the next step to cover up part L is to put on part M. So I believe this goes with the access hole facing up. Lift it up and then get that on. All right, so now that I've put on those two leg pieces, the next step is to put on his pelvis. So I'm gonna do that real quick. So you just bring it over here. And this guy, it proves that this guy is absolutely giant because on Skelly, the pelvis is the third step. And you do it while he's standing up, which is crazy. Like you do it when he's not on the box. So it's crazy how much taller this guy is compared to Skelly. So what you want to do, you want to line both of these holes perfectly up. You want to snap lock both those pieces in. Then once you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next step. So let's do that. All right, so after you've put his pelvis on and connected all the wires, and you also have to put that one piece that has the support wire that you'll be connecting right before you stand him up. But anyway, so the next step is to put on his rib cage, and this thing is giant. And it has lights inside of there, and it also has a motor right here because he does have servo motors in his head, which is super cool. But anyways, I'm gonna connect this on right now. Or I'll get it lined up. And then once you've got it lined up, you're going to want to connect all the wires on here. So you get red. You do red to red. You screw that on. And then I'm going to connect all the wires and then we'll get to the next part, all right? So now that I connected all the wires in his rib cage or his torso, it's now time for me to put it on. So I got to tuck all the wires in there so they don't stick out and be directly in the ring. And then I got to line this up perfectly. And then just like that, then you just simply push it on and then you have his rib cage on. So now let's move on to putting his clothing on. All right, so now that I put his rib cage on, the next step is to put on his jacket. And this jacket is giant, and so this is actually supposed to be not very hard to do. And so you just put it over his back before you put his arms on so that it's easier. Then you get it, then you just put it over like this, and then there is a hole for this pin piece, which I did get right there. And then you just gotta put the sleeves by where his arms are going to be. Then after you do that, his jacket is on and he's good to go. So let's move on to the next step. Before you put on his arms, you do have to put on his collar, which is part of the clothing. So I'm gonna do that right now. Just put it on around his neck. Should be super easy. And now that you've got that done, it's now time to put on his arms. So let's do that. So now that I've put all of his clothing on, the next step is to put on his arms. So I've got part R right here, and this is his left arm, I believe. And so you slide it up the sleeve of his jacket. Then get it in here, and you can pull his jacket off a little bit just to see, so you can snap lock it in, because it is pretty difficult. And you just go in right here, and then you get the snap lock, and you line them up perfectly. And then once you've got it on, you just push it in, and they should connect perfectly. And so, gotta move the clothing out of the way. Then after I do that, just push it, and then his first arm should be on. So yeah. All right, so now for our final step, we're gonna be putting on his giant head. This is his head. It's really scary. I feel like it's a lot scarier than Skelly, and it's super cool looking, so let me put it on. But first, before I do that, I gotta connect this white wire right here, because this controls the lights in his head, and also I believe the servo motors for his head to move around. So let me do that. Wire connected, and then just twist this on super easily, and then tuck that wire into there. And then after you do that, you just gotta put his head on. You gotta line up this piece right there, then just push it on. Then real quick, I'm gonna screw him in, and then I'm gonna put his hat on, and we can get to the demo. All right, so now I'm on the last part of building him. I just gotta get his hat. And so this like straw type stuff is his hair. So I just gotta put this on, and then there's like a strap that goes over his chin to make sure the hat doesn't fall off. So I just get this on his head, and then pull the strap over his chin, and then put the hat on. Then get it on good. And then after I put his hat on, he's now finished being built. So let's get to the demo. Alright guys, so now that I've finally built him and gotten him set up, I've moved him to my front yard to start building my Halloween display for this year. And he is absolutely giant. He is awesome in real life. And he's actually way bigger than Skelly, which, I mean, I know he was 3 feet taller, but I didn't realize how big of a comparison it actually was. And so, as you can tell, he's kind of like Inferno Pumpkin. He has the flickering flame effect in his torso and in his head. And unlike Inferno Pumpkin, he actually has a servo motor in his head, like the Servo Skelly that released last year. So I'm going to go ahead and get him going for you guys so you can see the demo of this guy. I'm going to go over there. Get him going. You guys can see him as he first turns on. He should just turn on. There we go. He is going. And as you can see, his head turns back and forth, and it moves around. And it looks around, and there's a motion sensor on his pelvis, or a little bit lower than his pelvis, because this guy's way taller, unlike the Skelly. And it is super cool how he does that. And as you can see, I have corn stalks next to him as extra decor. But yeah, so this guy is awesome. If you think he's cool, I definitely recommend getting him. He's got to be one of my favorite animatronics or props that's released this year. And I especially love all the giants. But this one has got to be one of my favorite giant animatronics from Home Depot and all other stores of all time. But anyways, guys, this was a super cool video. I'm so happy I got to get this guy for my display this year. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Bye!